we've had 2 episodes of Doctor Who Flux since I last talked about this show. And my plan was absolutely to review episode 2, War of the Sontarans, the day after it came out. But we had a bunch of Avengers news dropping with the Spider-Man DLC. And I chose to prioritize that. No offense to Doctor Who, I prefer Spider-Man, and I think my audience in general does prefer Spider-Man. So my plan was then to talk about both chapters 2 and 3, so that's War of the Sontarans and Once Upon Time, in one video. Do it as kind of like an episode bundle review in a way. But there was something in chapter 3, Once Upon Time, that really got me thinking about something else that I would rather talk about, and I don't have that much to say about everything else surrounding these episodes, to be honest. So what I'll do is I'll just give you kind of my quick thoughts on the 2 episodes. War of the Sontarans I thought was really cool, seeing the Sontarans invading Earth whilst all of time and space is compromised by the Flux event. Really cool episode. I liked where it was moving towards in the 3rd act as well. I'm really liking the new villains, and I'm liking that they do seem to be committing to this being an ongoing story. As for Once Upon Time, many of those same praises do ring true there, but it is another episode like the first episode of the season that's going to require more context given by later episodes. It is still a very scrambled and bombastic episode. It honestly felt very Stephen Moffat to me. I mean, you've got the angels in there for a start, but like the way it was this big bombastic all-around time and space adventure with little cameo appearances from different villains from the Doctor's past, mystery characters, the Weeping Angels of course. I really enjoyed it, and especially the character development that they gave to Vinda. But there's an element here that was also present in Series 12 that I've been trying to really give the benefit of the doubt, because there's really good potential there, but I think it is inherently an issue. And just a reminder, these videos are made possible by my supporters on this platform, so if you do want to support me, be sure to hit that big, beautiful subscribe button, and be sure to check out the Patreon link in the description below. So what we're going to be talking about today is the Fugitive Doctor, played by Jo Martin. Now, this video is gonna get a little bit political in places, so I just want to preface this by giving my overall views on this sort of subject matter. When it comes to casting Doctor Who, you can cast anyone as far as I'm concerned. The Doctor is a time-traveling alien that can literally change their body and face. Like, you can cast anyone in that role. Doesn't need to be male, doesn't need to be female, doesn't need to be white, doesn't need to be black, doesn't need to be Asian. The Doctor can have any ethnic background, any gender, any sexual orientation, because the Doctor is just the definition of this fantastical alien, and with each new incarnation the show goes over new territory. And in the Chris Chibnall run of Doctor Who, they've made history with the casting of the Doctor. They made history in Series 11 with the very first female Doctor, and they made history with Series 12 with the very first Black Doctor. Now, I'm not typically one to draw attention to people's ethnicities and genders and such, because I do think that in the real world it's a pretty trivial matter, but when it comes to casting a role that has exclusively been played by white dudes all this time, yeah, there is a sense of progress to it. There is something to talk about there. And so, Series 12 introduced us to Jo Martin's Fugitive Doctor, the very first Black Doctor Who in history. And in a few short scenes, she absolutely knocked it out of the park. Jo Martin is absolutely brilliant in this role. And to be honest, she played the Doctor much more in line with how I perceive that character than how Jodie Whittaker does. And that's not just down to performance, that's also very much down to writing. Jo Martin's Doctor has the confidence and conviction that Jodie Whittaker's Doctor lacks. This is something that definitely sets the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, apart from previous Doctors, is that previous Doctors have all very much had this sense of confidence, this sense of conviction in everything they say. Like, the Doctor knows that they're weird. They know they're a weird person, but they don't care, whereas Jodie Whittaker is much more socially conscientious. With Jo Martin's Doctor, we were brought back to that more familiar character type for the Doctor, and I do think that confidence is very much integral to the character, which is why I think a lot of people do find 13's Doctor to be a little lacking in places. You know what, just for the sense of brevity, I'm going to refer to the two Doctors as 13 and Fugi, okay? 13, Jodie Whittaker. Fugi, Joe Martin. What 13 lacked, Fugi had. Fugi made up for it. Which is why with that, teamed with Joe Martin's absolutely fantastic performance, Fugi stole the show from 13 for me, and I think she did for a lot of fans. You just look at Fugi and you're just like, that's the Doctor. That's her, that's my Doctor. So all of this should seem like a perfect storm, back to basics characterization and an absolutely phenomenal actor to fill that role, right? I mean, it should be, right? Think about it. But there's a completely unnecessary caveat which comes with Fugi, the first Black Doctor. So the question is, how did they fuck it up? I mean, surely Jodie Whittaker regenerates and then Joe Martin is the Doctor, right? Wrong. No, that's not the case at all. Fugi is a side character. The first Black Doctor is a side character. She's a supporting cast member in the Jodie Whittaker era. The historic first black actor to play Doctor Who is doing it as a side role, a supporting cast member in a series that focuses on the first female Doctor, admittedly, but nevertheless a white Doctor. Now, this is a bit of a pessimistic way of looking at it, I guess, because, I mean, you could just say, you know, they needed a secondary Doctor, they wanted, like, you know, this mystery box character, and they just happened to cast Joe Martin because she was a good fit for the role. That's the optimistic way of looking at it, but it's hard to ignore the optics of the very first Black Doctor being just a side character to supplement a remaining white Doctor. They've made history in this show by introducing us to the concept of a POC actor playing this role, but haven't committed to it as a full-time series, almost as if they're just testing the waters with something they shouldn't even need to test the waters with. I kinda get it with changing the Doctor's gender, but like ethnicity, that's like a lot more trivial in my opinion. And it's also a lot harder to look past considering that the BBC themselves were pushing news articles of the first Black Doctor being this boundary breaking thing, when she's literally not even given the chance to do this role full time, and likely won't because Russell T Davies is returning as the showrunner and Chris Chibnall is stepping down, and the Fugitive Doctor is very much a Chris Chibnall contribution. And she's not even a future Doctor, she's a Doctor from the past, she's already regenerated. I am rarely on board with the assumption that they're just casting, I guess you could say diversely, for certain roles, for the sake of clout, for the sake of gold stars. But it's like, when you cast the first Black Doctor as a side character, the Doctor, the main character of this show, you've cast the first black one as a side character to a white Doctor, and then you're pushing articles about how this is breaking boundaries. Nuh-uh. No. That, my friends, is textbook virtue signaling. And I think matters kind of reached a new low in yesterday's episode, Once Upon Time. The story being that 13 and her friends are caught up in a time storm taking them to different timelines, and one of those timelines is the timeline of Joe Martin's Doctor and her companions during the siege of Atropos. But because of the nature of the time storm, there is a sense of displacement, so we rarely see Joe Martin's Doctor in this timeline, instead seeing Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor, and Joe Martin only appears as the reflection. So the first black side character Doctor Who has been demoted to reflection of white Doctor Who. It doesn't get much more tone deaf than that, to be honest. I was kind of unsure as to whether or not to really make this video, whether or not I really have a dog in this race, given that I myself am just a white dude. But like, you know, it's hard to ignore. I don't know how more people aren't talking about this. Let me just spell it out for you one more time. The BBC pushes the first Black Doctor, a broken boundary, except she's a side character plot device in her first debut appearances, and then she appears as a fucking reflection of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, who replaces her in her own timeline because of a time distortion. And that is just objectively what happens. That's not like, oh, that's just your opinion, that's just your take. This is objectively how it plays out. This is what happened. As well as that, my good buddy Dom over on the Who Chaser, check his channel out by the way, he does terrific Doctor Who content. He himself has expressed dissatisfaction with the way that this has been handled as well. And he's kind of alluded to this sense that there's kind of a common response. It's kind of, just be grateful, you've got the first Black Doctor. And I don't think people realize how grotesquely condescending that is. This move doesn't feel like it is representing a black audience. At least from where I'm standing, it doesn't look like that. It looks more to me like they're talking down to a black audience. And that's just not okay. That's not fucking cool. And the damage is done now. There are ways they can stick a band-aid on it. Like, they can cast a black actor as the next Doctor. Like, I'm not typically someone that says, oh, this role has to be played by a person of a specific ethnicity. But I think the next Doctor really does need to be a black actor, just to make up for the fact that the first Black Doctor we had was a fucking side character turned mirror reflection. There are rumors that Russell T Davies is looking to cast Tania Miller or Lydia West as the next Doctor, and that would remedy that, as they're both two black actors, and you know what, I think they're both great picks. But it won't change the fact that Jo Martin had all the potential in the world to fill this role properly, full-time, as the Doctor, and probably isn't gonna get to do it full-time as the one and only Doctor Who. And it's just so baffling to me that we're in the 2020s and this is happening. This is the way this event played out. Honestly, poor show. I want to see justice for Jo Martin. I want to see Fugie become the main Doctor. I don't want to have to keep calling her Fugie. I want to be able to call her 14, not 13, 14, I almost said 13. I'd be interested to see what you guys have to say about this matter. I understand it's not the easiest matter to discuss, and I hope I've got this right. I hope I haven't fucked this up completely. As I say, I'm in no way against casting a black actor as Doctor Who. I think the way it's been done has just been mind-boggling. So baffling. And that's just what it boils down to. Why the fuck did they do it this way? Why didn't they commit to their breaking of boundaries in big old air quotes? I'll never get it. I don't get it. I never will get it. So I want to see Jo Martin as the 14th Doctor. That's the one way they can really quell this. But of course, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And until the next time, bye-bye. So what do you guys think? If you enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit that big, beautiful subscribe button. And of course, in the description below are links to different social media feeds, including the Patreon. If you're feeling extra generous like the following people, who are David 20 Covers, JK Strife, Marcus Ward, Sirius the Skeptic, Biotin Arts, Mr. SP, Sergio, George is Lost, Legendary Ray Ray, Cheesemaster769, Adam Myers, and Fayalan Schwarzentraub. Thank you guys, you are the best of the best, but as for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching guys, and have a great day.